My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about the many people that I've talked to in my life that say that they can never reach a goal because they just are not motivated. I hear this time and time again. But do you really need to be motivated to reach a goal? Now, the way I look at it is motivation is good, but that'll help you on a day-to-day basis. But that's not going to help you for the long run. We want to look at a word such as discipline. That may get you a little bit further. Now, discipline is when you have the power to manage your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter how you think. But you're going to do the right thing anyway in order to get to a goal. And so with discipline, we're going to be a lot further along to reaching goals. But still, I would add that motivation and discipline, they're still symptoms. They're not the root or the root cause of somebody doing well in life and reaching goals. What would those be? What I would say is that it's pride of ownership, or pride of ownership of your life and who you are as a person. If you want to use different words for that, or keep it simple, I would say, do you even care about yourself? If you want to get a little more emotional about it, you could say, do you love yourself? Or what about self-love? All of these would be root causes in order to change your motivation and to change your discipline in order to get to a goal. Here's a thought. What is the number one reason why people stop drinking or doing drugs? Now, think about this for a second. You got alcohol and drug rehab centers that some of them charge like $5,000 a month. You've got 12-step programs that are everywhere that people say work, when there's about a 5% success rate on those. And we can go more and more and more about how many books there are out there, how many movies, everything else. People talking about how to stop people from drinking and doing drugs. We can get people that are in the psychology field. We can get people that are lay people talking about this. But what is the number one way or reason why people stop drinking and doing drugs? The answer is they grow up. Honestly, that's the answer. And what does that mean? What it means is that somebody realizes, wow, I can't get drunk all the time and still hold my full-time job. I don't want to be homeless. Or I'm going to have a kid, and it's really difficult to be a drug addict and still be a good parent. And so they realize that the goal or their pride of ownership of their life is, I want to be a good parent. I don't want to be destroying my child. So I'm going to put away the drugs and alcohol, and I'm going to be a better person. And so the root cause here would be pride of ownership of your life. You start to grow up. Now, that might sound a little difficult for people to hear, but it's the truth. So let's make this a little bit more personal now. So when I was young, I had no idea really what I wanted to be in life. I mean, sure, at some point I probably wanted to be a football player or a boxer or something like that. But I really did not know what I was going to do with my life. But I did know this. I definitely knew what I didn't want. Number one, I didn't want to be a loser. And number two, I never wanted to be submissive. In other words, I didn't want to be submissive to any person or anything. And so you have to have pride of ownership of your life. And so I went through some things that I thought I should do in order to put myself in a position where I would never have to be submissive to anybody. Now, when I say not be submissive to anything, I'm also talking about nature here, because I've always been afraid to get old and die and become feeble, right? And so that one we're going to lose, because Mother Nature has a 100% chance of winning, right? You will never win that. But nature takes away everything. Nature is going to take away your hair sometimes. It'll take away your sight. It'll take away your hearing. It'll take away your youth, your ability to move your joints in your body. It'll take away everything eventually. But if you have pride of ownership of your own life, why would you just give it away? And so to me, I don't think you need to have motivation on an hourly basis in order to eat right and to exercise. To me, it's a lifelong battle of caring about who you are as a person and how you want to live. So the decisions become very, very easy to make. In terms of not being submissive to people, who wants to go through your whole life that every decision you have to make, you have to count every penny you have, and then you have to talk a certain way around certain people because they can hurt you because you don't have enough money, right? Like we see this all the time. People are in relationships they shouldn't be in because they can't handle it on their own financially. They stay at certain jobs that they shouldn't, even though they hate their boss, but their boss treats them poorly, but they can't get a better job somewhere else. I never want to be submissive to anybody. So there were certain things that I did in my life to keep me down this path, to keep me safe, I guess you could call it. But I don't want to talk about those things specifically. Let me go back to when I was a kid, because I was thinking about this the other day when I was thinking about doing this show. Because I hear, again, going back to the beginning, I've heard so many of my clients over the years, I'm not motivated, I can't do it. And what they're doing is they're finding ways to fail. They're always looking for ways of that they can't do it for this reason, they can't do it for that reason, it's not a good day, it's not a good time, the weather's not good, and all of this stuff. And I kept thinking, I'm going, well, what do we really need here besides pride of ownership of your life? And I think it's youthful exuberance. Because with youthful exuberance, and I'm going back to say when I was a kid, I don't remember having the fear of failure that a lot of people mention as adults. If I wanted to do something, I would just figure out a way to do it. And I never really thought about the consequences so much. Because in actuality, the consequences of not doing the correct action is actually worse. So let me give you this crazy example. So there was one day in January, I was 14 years old. So we're looking at like 1979. So I was about 14 years old in New York. It was snowing outside. So we weren't allowed out for lunch. We had to stay inside. So we stayed in the cafeteria. And as a bunch of guys do, we didn't know what to do. So we ended up doing these arm wrestling contests. And so I'm having fun arm wrestling people. And of course I'm getting tired because we have like 45 minutes of this or so. Well, turns out that I had this one match against this guy and I was using my weak arm, my right arm. And on the way down, I put his hand on the table, but in doing so, pushing really hard, there was a loud crack and I broke my elbow. And of course it hurt, right? But I didn't want to make my mom feel bad or that, I'd have to put her through any more burden than what she already had. So I tried to act like it didn't happen, that it was not a big deal, that I would just get over it. But by the next morning when I went to school, I had to crack my arm to get it to move into place, because whenever I moved it, it would stop. And then I'd have to, again, snap it. So in order to open up my locker, it was really tough. I had to, crack and uncrack my arm a couple of times to do that. So then that day, I ended up going to the hospital. My mom takes me there, and they didn't find a break. They said it was a bruise. And so in my mind, I thought, wow, I shouldn't be feeling this much pain if it's only a bruise, so I must be kind of wimpy. So let me be a little bit stronger to handle this. So I went through 2 more days of this. And of course, it was swelling and my arm was getting harder to move, but I didn't complain. So then my mom ends up taking me back to the hospital, and it ends up to find out that it was broken. And I was the happiest guy alive because I was so happy that I was able to withstand the pain of a broken elbow, and I didn't cry, I didn't wince, I didn't do anything, and plus I won an arm wrestling match. So what does that mean in terms of pride of ownership? It means that, and although that's a crazy example, what it means is that I had my eyes set on being a certain type of person. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be somebody that could be counted on. I wanted to be somebody that was a winner. Again, I didn't want to be submissive. And so the qualities that come out during this time were, there was no complaining with me at all. So what happened was, I ended up getting my arm casted, of course. and I had a sling. Now you got to realize, once again, I was 14 years old, so I had already been working out with weights for 3 years because I started at 11, and I was playing football since I was 8. So the physical aspect of my life was very important to me. I already had a decent amount of muscle, and I wanted to continue that, and it really bothered me that I was going to be out of commission for a while. My way out of it was to use my legs because I couldn't move my elbow. So that day, when I came home with my cast, I said, I'm going to use my legs. Now, understand, again, it's still snowing outside, or there was snow on the ground. I had a sling on my arm. And back then, I had like 2 pairs of jeans. I had one pair of jeans I would have to wear Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The other one's Tuesday, Thursday, because I just didn't have clothes. I didn't have sweatpants. But that day after school at like 3 o'clock, I started my run from where I lived in Baldwin all the way through Freeport up to where the sign says you're now leaving Freeport, which was 2.8 miles away. So if I can get to the sign and get back, you're looking at 5.4 mile run. And I started to do that. So let's track what we have so far about what we're not complaining about. Now, what 14-year-old kid or what adult today do you see that has enough pride of ownership of their life, that wants to try to continue to do things, would be running through the snow in pants with a sling on? Now, at any point, I could have fell, right? I was slipped on ice, any of these things. And it could have happened, but it didn't. So I continued to run with one arm, and I kept doing this day after day after day. And so what happens? By the time, and I don't remember the exact date, somewhere around April or May, there was a 26.2 mile marathon race, the Long Island Marathon. And at 14 years old, I finished that race. So what I took was a broken elbow led me to be able to finish a full marathon at 14 years old. Now, during that, again, how do you train for such a thing? Well, one of the things I did was, and I kind of snuck it past my mother at the time, is that I had her drive me from the house all the way through, because I needed to go 13 miles in one direction. So we started to go, and we found out that it was 9 miles from my house to the toll booth at Jones Beach. But I had to go 4 miles past that. And then to come back to make it 26 miles. Well, I had no idea, again, youthful exuberance. After school, I decided to try to make that run to see how close I was to completing 26 miles. And it was dark outside by then. And my mother thought, this crazy kid, I bet you he had me drive him out 13 miles because he's going to actually think about trying to run this. Now you have to realize, not only did I run down the main street, but at some point I had to get off, and I was running on the Parkway. I guess on the West Coast we would call it the freeway. But I was running on the freeway, and she caught me I was probably somewhere about 16 miles into that run. So I never got that completed. So I wasn't sure if I could actually complete the full 26 until the actual day of the race. So what am I saying here? What I'm saying here is this whole thing about just being motivated on a day-to-day basis doesn't make sense, because there were days in there when, of course, I didn't feel like running. There were days when I was in pain. There were days when I figured, why should I be doing this? But it didn't matter, because I had pride of ownership of my life, and I definitely didn't want to think, okay, this kid beat me. Well, he didn't beat me, but he ended up breaking my arm in an arm wrestle. I didn't want him to think that he had something on me. So I was going to continue to do something to be successful. And then that's what I did. And then the next year, I ended up being the captain of the track team when we won the county championships. So it all works out. I've got a couple of other stories, but this show's getting kind of long, so we're going to leave that out. You could just assume that I've done things of that nature over and over and over again in my life. So when I hear people complain about, oh, they're just not motivated, well, but you are in a certain sense, right? Like if I'm trying to help you to follow a good, nutritious, healthy diet so you can improve your life, and you say you're not motivated to do it, you're eating bad food. Well, think about all of the decisions you have to make in order to get in your car, fight traffic, go wait in line, buy donuts, and then take those donuts, come home. You're making the same amount of decisions you would make if you would just grab an apple. So I don't want to hear that you're not motivated. I don't want to hear that you just don't have the discipline. The truth is that you don't care enough. And that's the truth. You haven't grown up enough. Because when you do, and you have pride of ownership of your life and who you want to be, you're going to make better decisions. So hopefully that's been beneficial to you in some way. My name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.